Here we are. Here we are. Don't mind the background noise. I got the heat on in the house, but hopefully I could just talk louder than it, and we can get this going. This is gonna be the 2024 January meta game, meta list. I got the decks here. You're gonna see them in a second. I know that I'm blocking them a little bit, but that's okay. We're gonna go through it anyway. You know what I'm saying? So like, let's keep it rolling. And I'd love to get y'all feedback. You know what I'm saying? So like, if you got anything that you want to talk about, or maybe I'm just missing something, go ahead and put it in the chat. I mean, that's something that I can see. That's something I want to interact with you guys. So this is gonna be a good way to dissect the meta a little bit, see what you should be playing, what you should avoid. Also, maybe some sleepers in here. I put a lot of different decks in here. Not a tremendous amount. Like, I keep some of the things that are not going to be relevant out. So we can go ahead and get started. You know what I'm saying? So first, we got branded Desia, right? Where do we put branded Desia in the meta right now? I'm just going to be honest with you. Tier S, I'm going to say is, if you play this deck, you're going to have very high success. Tier A is going to be a little bit more of a, Tier 1. I think Tier 1. Tier S is 0. Like, you're going to find the most success with Tier S, right? Tier 0. But when it comes down to Yu-Gi-Oh, man, you can have success with any deck, right? You just have to have the right matchups and a little bit of luck on your side. I'm not going to lie. Like, there's luck in Yu-Gi-Oh. You can have skill. Obviously, like, some of these decks are piloted by, some of the best players in the game. So that's going to contribute to their success, right? Like, so people who are continuously topping doesn't mean that the deck is better than other decks. It just means that the player is good enough to pilot that deck in the way that it should be, and they know the metagame. Because believe it or not, you can play the best deck and find bad results because you just don't know other decks. You don't know the metagame inside and out, and that's going to hurt you, right? Another thing where in my career, I want to say my career, but like, I've been playing this game for a long time, 10 years plus, 15 years actually. So if you go into an event, right, not with the best deck, but with a deck that people don't know, you're going to have success. I promise you, you're going to have success. I topped so many regionals, right? Top 8, with Sunseed Genius Loci, the plant deck. Right, this was Sun Avalon Therion. No one knew what the plants did. I found tremendous success in that, and they didn't know that a simple draw would really just end my turn. But let's continue. I'm gonna put Desia in A. This deck has been topping a lot. It's been everywhere right now. And I'm gonna put it in A because they have a gimmick in the deck, which is literally Gimmick Puppet. That card is just simply unfair. It turns off your turn. It's like a scythe lock, in my opinion. And doesn't necessarily mean that the deck is good. It utilizes a card that's not meant for the deck. Nonetheless, we do have to consider it. Doesn't mean that the pilot is good, and it does make the deck better. But I'm going to put it in A because if you know how to play around that, you shouldn't really have a bad time with Desia, and Ash is a card that stops branded Desia. Branded Fusion, my fault. Still, so I'm going to put it in A, even though it's been finding a good amount of success in all events recently. And just to let you guys know, this is going to be all variants of the deck, right? So this is going to be branded Desia. If there's Chimera, I put that separately, but because I think Chimera is just totally different way of playing Desia and branded. Or sorry, you don't play Desia and Chimera, but I think it's just a whole different dynamic when it comes to fusion summoning. So let's continue. This is branded Desia up here. I think it's A. Pretty good deck. Centurion. I'm going to put Centurion in front of branded Desia. And that's because Centurion has been finding success, a lot of success And they also have an unfair gimmick in the deck, and that's High Clean Calamity, the single card that just doesn't allow your opponent to play. Seems like that's a common theme now. We got away from good on Konami's part, right, to limit the floodgates, but we still have these unfair cards in the game that just pretty much instantly wins you the game. I do like the Centurion deck. This is going to be Centurion all versions, right? So that's Horus, that's Pier. I see some Kashtira and Bestios going around in Centurion. Really good deck. I've actually played it in my locals, and it's another deck that not a lot of people understand what the cards do. They still have to read what's going on. Like, why is this happening? Why can you do this? So with that aspect of it, because it's relatively a new deck, it's going to be good. You're going to find success with it as long as you know what you're doing. And it's something that your opponent just needs the cards to stop. And if they don't, then, turn 2 is just bad for them. Another big part of Centurion here is that there's a lot of one-card starters, and you don't even need to run all of them, right? So there's a lot of space for non-engine, right? So that's going to improve your consistency with a lot of one-card starters. There's like 12 of them in the deck, and maybe even more if you just want to add more cards that start your deck. But nonetheless, a lot of non-engine can be a little scary because what if you don't draw engine? But it consistently helps you fight the opponent. As long as you know the matchup, game 2 and game 3, your siding and everything, you should be completely fine. Centurion, very good choice. Now we go here to Chimera. Where would I put this? Would I put it in front of Branded Despia or behind Branded Despia? I'm going to go with in front. And the reason for that is because you can still get to your Despia monsters, or your branded monsters, as well as have negates sitting in the graveyard and ripping cards from your opponent's hand on turn 1. So I think that with the added dynamic of the illusion monsters and what they bring, it's better than Branded Despia. Branded Despia doesn't have any negation like that. Just has like recursion, which can all be utilized within the Chimera deck. So they just have a little bit of an edge with the negations that they can have. So I'm gonna put that here a little bit above Branded Despia. The weird part about it is it's not topping as often. I don't see it in top cuts. And typically that would mean that it's a worse deck, but maybe just good players are not playing it at the moment. And they're opting to go for Branded Despia, for recursion, for whatever the case may be. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know all of the lines when it comes to Chimera, but what I do know is that they can get to these cards. They can get to Mirror Jade. They can get to Albion. They just have to run Fallen of Albaz, right? With additional negations, I don't see how this deck is not better than Branded Despia. Time will tell, and we'll see. But this is just opinionated based, right? This is a discussion. We can go back and forth and figure out, your opinions, my opinions, and just have a good discussion on it. My opinion, it's a little bit better than Branded Despia. All right, we have to throw in some decks in here that just really aren't in the meta because Rogue can play a part in the meta. Dark World is clearly pretty bad going into this meta. Joel and Lockbird will end the turn for a Dark World player. And also, the deck is just not strong enough. It got power crept. There's other decks that have that unfair mechanic and gimmick to it that Dark World doesn't have, besides the fact that they can rip cards out of your hand, right? If you can get that combo off, you win. I guess that's the unfair gimmick, and maybe that's why it's worth playing. But there's so many hand traps going around that it can be stopped. It can simply be stopped. Maybe I'm not giving it enough justice. Maybe C is the better tier for it, because if you can get that combo off consistently and you know how to play around hand traps, then this deck will find you success as long as as long as that continues, right, throughout the event. And that's the luck aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is you don't know what you're playing against. You don't know your opponent every single time. You don't know what they're on. So that's the luck aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh! Also, with a long event like that, you need to have consistency. I don't think this deck is consistent. I don't think it'll consistently rip 5 cards every game. You know what I mean? So that's just something that I take into consideration, and I would put that here and see. All right. So let's go ahead and look at the next deck. Dragonlink. Dragonlink is not topping events. Does that mean it's a bad deck? Absolutely not. This deck can still put up negations, can put up big boards, can utilize Branded Regain and Lubellion and the Desia package. I think this deck is still strong. I think it's very strong. For now, we're going to put it at the end of A, and I think it might stay there. But that deck, Dragonlink, strong deck. Strong deck. Yes, Dro beats it, but you can play under Dro with the Desia package. Like Lubellion, yeah, you discard it to add a card. But if it's engraved, they have a bunch of dragons already. They can just summon out the Lubellion, place the Branded Regain, right? Activate Magnamut if they have it or whatever. Just to continue. I think this is going to be a deck that is going to be running around. And I'll just keep an eye out on like a radar for this deck. Fire King. These are all versions. Remember, like I said, so this is Fire King Tri Brigade, Fire King with the Dia Bellstar engine, Pure Fire King. Pure Fire King isn't great, right? But who's going to be playing Pure Fire King when there's Dia Bellstar? So, where would I put this deck? This is tough, right? I think the deck is really good. I actually play it in real life. So I know what it can do. Is it better than Centurion? I would say it's just as consistent as Centurion. The thing is, right? Oh, my fault. The thing is, what are you going to be running? What are people going to be more prepared for? Definitely Fire King. People are still kind of sleeping on Centurion. I mean, it's gaining popularity now because of, it's topping, it's winning events, it's winning regionals. However, I think people are prepared more for fire decks, right? Rescue Ace, Fire King. They're going to be looking on what can they do to stop these. One thing that makes it a little bit weird is that Centurion can play Tikaboo, and even though it's at 1, right? This deck can. It's just a little awkward. It's just a little weird, a little awkward. But it can play under Tikaboo. Like Ponix can get this guy. This guy's a winged beast, so you can play with Ponix and Runic and have a little bit of fun with that. But you can't Kieran. Kieran's a beast, right? However, you can do all lines with. Pretty sure you can do all lines with Centurion under Tikaboo. But let's continue. I'm gonna put Fire King a little bit under Centurion because people are gonna be more prepared for Fire King. All right, next, Flu Wanderies. Droll is running around, which is a big problem for Flu Wanderies. But I put Dragonlink up here, and Droll is bad for Dragonlink, right? So Flu still has a dynamic of Floodgates. M-Pen right here negates pretty much any Link monster because they're all in attack position. That's pretty strong right now, I would say. I would say that's pretty strong. If they can consistently get M-Pen out and just, once that engine gets rolling, it's really hard to stop, then you can find some success as long as you can dodge Droll. And there's cards in the meta that can do that, right? They have a Called by the Grave, and we have 3 Crossout. They also play Unfair Mechanic, right? Harpy's Feather Duster, or Harpy's Feather Storm. And they have 3. They can run 3 of those if they like. So I'm gonna put this deck in B tier. I still think a good Dragonlink player can beat this deck because there's cards you can put in defense mode that will work. You know, I might have to bring Dragonlink down. I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna put Dragonlink here. I think it's a little bit more appropriate here. Um, but Flu is a deck that's still out there. I don't see anyone playing it at my locals, but I'm sure at events there's probably a few people playing Flu. It's good. It beats all Link monsters. Fire King will destroy this deck though, because Fire King doesn't need to go into Links. And so will Centurion. That's why they're placed higher, right? And that's why this deck probably won't find success, because these two decks will just destroy this deck. And so will these, right? Like fusion monsters can also go in defensive position. So it's just a little weird. This deck will really need the Heartbeast Featherstorm to find success consistently. So there we go. There we have it. That is Flu Wanderers. So next is Chimera. This deck, man. This deck has been finding success. Like bringing back Unicorn to 3 has really done something, and it's going up here. That's my take on it. There's a lot of good decks this meta. Chimera is going up here. It's been topping events. It's been represented in top cuts, right? And there's nothing really changing. D-Shifter is their unfair mechanic, and that beats Fire King. Fire King needs their graveyard. It doesn't beat Centurion. That's why Centurion's one of the better decks. But it's good. I mean, Chimera is a good deck. We all know that they're all pretty much an individual individual boss monsters, right? So Chimera is represented. I would say is an A tier deck. They still have 3 Birth, 3 Theosis. The only thing they really lost is their boss monster, Rise Heart, which was a problem card, right? And they lost Diablos. 2 unfair cards, but the deck is consistent. The deck can still spam out rank 7s, and they're annoying to deal with. It's still going to be in the meta. I'm going to put them here at the bottom of A tier right now. Labyrinth. Huh. Transaction rollback, man. It's coming out. I'm going to say Labyrinth. Hot take, right? Hot take. Better than the fusion decks. I'm going to say Labyrinth is better than the fusion decks. And here's why. Here's why. Tell me what hand trap beats Labyrinth? Ash, right? Ash beats the Big Welcome. Transaction rollback is in the deck now. Ash is no longer a problem for Labyrinth. As long as they can, as long as Big Welcome is in the graveyard, transaction rollback is going to resolve. You already ashed something, right? You have to ash the Big Welcome. Once transaction rollback activates, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It just copies the effect of Big Welcome. You pay life, copy the effect, activate, right? Labyrinth is good. These decks still lose to Ash. There's nothing they can do about it, right? Unless they have the called by, unless they have the cross out. Last time I checked, these decks don't play cross out. Last time I checked, not many people were on called by the grave. So Labyrinth is gonna be here. These decks right here can beat a Labyrinth player as long as they know how Labyrinth works, and that's the issue. Not a lot of people know how Labyrinth works, including myself. I would love to learn the deck, right? And I'm actively trying to learn the deck because I know it's going to be represented. That's what you need to know as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, is that these decks will become more and more represented when support comes out. And Labyrinth, frankly, has transaction rollback coming out, so that's going to be support. All right, let's go. Next deck, Hero. Hero has been in a couple top cuts. Where do I think the deck lies? I think it lies in front of Dark World here in C tier. And the reason why is because you need to have a very good pilot. A very good pilot to navigate this deck, right? Because there's so many cards for heroes, and there's so many lines that you can do that you need to know what you're doing, and you need to know what other people are doing with their deck to counter it. So you can find success with hero, but you have to be on top of your A game. Honestly, you have to know what you're doing at all times. But it's going to be an uphill battle. It's going to be an uphill battle. Not much to say on hero. All right, let's move on to the next deck, and that is Makonko. Makonko has been finding itself in top cuts still, and I guarantee you I know why. Um, we're gonna put it in front of Dragonlink and in front of Fluanders. We're gonna put it here, top of B tier. And the reason why I'm gonna put it on top of B tier is simply because not many people know what the deck does. Still, it's not respected in the TCG. It's kind of like how Rika Sun Avalon wasn't respected in Europe, and it just kept on winning events. This deck is not respected here in TCG, and it just tops because no one knows what it does. Right? It's a deck that doesn't really seem uh, represented enough for people to take notice and figure out how to counter it. It's not solved. So I'm gonna put it on top of B tier because I think the deck is solid, but and piloting does matter. But I think majority of the reason why people are finding success with it in top cuts is because no one really cares to learn what it does or knows what it does in general. So top of B tier for me on that aspect. So let's move on to the next deck, and that's gonna be Orcust. They got Harp Horror back, right, with the new ban list. Where does that put the deck? Obviously, I don't think people are going to be playing pure Orcust. There's going to be some type of integration in there. I think maybe the horse package can go in here. Phantom Knight. I've seen multiple things when it comes to that. Off of the best package that I've seen, maybe horse. Where would I put this deck? Let's see. I'll put it here. I think this is a good spot for it. Harp Horror does do a lot for the deck, and you can recycle it with the link. So it's something that needs to be on people's radar and know how to deal with, because I do think people will start picking up on this. Not a lot, right? Because we're going into a fire meta. People are going to be more focused on fire decks. But there needs to be something in your deck or side deck that can handle Orcust. I do think it's going to be running around here and there. Maybe like how Flu was a couple formats ago, where it still wasn't like really prevalent, but still in the meta somewhere. And speaking of that, our next deck is Pearly. Another deck that I think will be in the meta, but not prevalent at all. The ban list, again, took a hit to this deck. It seems like they really want to limit it before it gets out of control. In my opinion, I don't think it will get out of control. It hasn't even won an event. So where would I put this deck? There are cards coming out that are going to make this deck a little bit worse, but at the current moment, let's see where we can put this deck. I would put it here. Top of B tier. We'll put it in the top of B tier. The hits were just a little bit too much in my opinion. It makes every card worse in the deck. Right? It makes White Cat less consistent. It makes your My Friend Pearly have less ratio when it comes to wanting specific cards, like the sleepy memory. You're not guaranteed that anymore. So these do play a factor in longevity of events. And what I mean by that, right, is like when you're playing a big event, at a regional or nationals, you're not gonna find consistency as you would want it to be. especially with Pearly because there's already RNG in it. And the RNG that you find in Pearly is when you do White Cat or when you do My Friend Pearly. These RNG events, you want to have more consistency. And with these hits, it lowered those consistencies. So I'm going to put it on top of B tier. Nothing's going to go in S tier, right? I don't think anything's in S tier. That's tier 0. These are tier 1. Here's a tier 2. And that's how we're playing it here. Next deck. Oh, Vanadium. Where does Vanadium go on this list? Where would you put Vanadium? I know where I'll put Vanadium. Better or worse than Labyrinth is a good question. I'm gonna put Vanadium one step above Labyrinth, and here's why. If Vanadium can make a board, Labyrinth is not winning the game. Labyrinth will not win that game. If Labyrinth makes its board, Vanadium can play through a lot. As long as they can get through their first summon, they're fine. Labyrinth is strong, but Vanadium comes out with more firepower than Labyrinth. Labyrinth takes a turn or two. Labyrinth takes 2 to 3 turns to get going. What I mean by that, they do the coup clock, they can summon with the big welcome, and boom, that's how their engine starts. They can play on turn 1. But it needs turn 2 and turn 3 to have the engine really going. Vanadium could do it all on turn 1. They make their board. How is Labyrinth going to break that board? How is Labyrinth going to break a Vanadium board? I don't know. So for that reason, I'm putting it one step above Labyrinth. Now, when it comes to Fire King and Vanadium, Fire King has a lot. If Fire King makes their board, Vanadium may have a tough time getting through that first summon, that normal summon. But I think it's also vice versa, right? If Vanadium goes first and Fire King doesn't have Droll or we can't stop their first summon, what do we do? I don't know. There needs to be a lot of non-engine to deal with Vanadium. And in that aspect, I think Forbidden Droplet is going to be coming back. Because Forbidden Droplet solves a Vanadium board, right? Forbidden Droplet can be activated on our draw phase to deal with Calamity, right? For Centurion. These things matter. Fire King can dodge. Actually, I'm lying. Fire King can play around Droplet a little bit with the effects that activate in the graveyard. The effects that activate on field, like Runics and Arvata, those are going to be cooked by Forbidden Droplet. I would pick up Forbidden Droplets now, if you could. Because I think they're going to be very prevalent in this upcoming format, and you want to be ahead of the curve, not scrambling in the middle of the format to try to find droplets. That's just my opinion. But let's go ahead. Let's continue. I'm going to leave it here for now. These are interchangeable, Vanadium and Fire King. I still think Centurion's better because if you can do the combo for Centurion, you win the game. I mean, they can't do nothing. They're not going to be able to activate any cards. So Centurion's looking pretty strong right now, in my opinion. And also, if Vanadium goes first against Centurion, there's so much space for non-engine, I think they'll be able to stop Vanadium. But let's go next deck, Rescue Ace. Obviously, this would be the Dia Bellstar Rescue Ace. I think that's the version that people will play if they play Rescue Ace. I think this deck, Ugh, this is a tough one. I'm going to put this deck here. I think it's a little bit better than Centurion. And here's why. Centurion is stoppable with hand traps. Vanadium doesn't play that many hand traps. I don't believe. There's a lot of engine that they need with the Scareclaw package, right? The Vanadium package with the Meeks, all the field spells. I don't believe they have a lot of space for non-engine. Centurion does. Rescue Ace does. So if Rescue Ace stops Centurion with their plays, which is quite easily, then I think going forward, that Rescue Ace will just have a better matchup into Centurion. That's funny. Chino Saf said I beat Centurion with my Trap Tricks deck easily, right? Trap Tricks I don't have on this list. I really don't, but that makes sense. And the reason why that makes sense is because traps aren't monster effects, right? You can activate them in any phase. So draw phase, you can definitely beat Centurion with your traps. I would say though, since Centurion, it's a oh, you struggled against your Typhon. Okay. Does that? Let's see. How does Centurion beat Typhon? They can beat it with the horse package. I know Centurion plays a lot of horse package, and Mseti himself can just attack over Typhon, and it's not an effect that activates, so they can just summon themselves. But I get what you're saying. Maybe pure Centurion, it just loses directly to Trap Tricks. That's a good point. It's a good point. But with the horse package, it gets a little bit stronger. But let's continue, right? So when it comes to Rescue Ace, free value, you set 4. And yeah, every deck can run Trap. Typhon. That's a good point as well. But right, every deck can run that card. When it comes to Rescue Ace, the free set 4 from Turbulence is just too much value. And then it's really hard to break that board unless you have Harpy's Feather Duster, which is a 1-of. What do you guys think? Do you think Rescue Ace deserves to be right here? What do you think about this top line right here? What would you guys say is out of place? I'm thinking this looks pretty good, the top line, but if I'm missing something, please let me know, because I'm down to open and have a discussion. But I'm going to put Rescue Ace here. Let's do that. Next deck I got here is Plants. This is going to be Post. This is Post. And Fluwanderies is like bottom of tier 2. I wouldn't say it's that strong, but I think it's because people aren't really playing it. Remind me, is that set, is that the one with Populous? Because my fault. I meant to say this is the before the Populous set. Yeah. So it's before that. It's before that set. Because I think that comes out at the end of the month. So we'll do another one post PHNI. But before that, I think this is looking pretty solid up here because there's no Populous yet. And when it comes to Fluwanderies, I think it's just no one's playing it, right? So how can we judge how good it is right now? But it does stop a lot of links, right? And what links in the current meta? Vanadium links and Fire King, Rescue Ace kind of links. Definitely Dragonlink, right? And then SP Little Knight is just running around all over the place. So I just put it on the bottom of tier 2. I wouldn't say it's a strong deck, but bottom of tier 2 I think is okay for Fluwanderies. Next deck is going to be Rika Sun Avalon. Rika Sun Avalon, I'm a little biased on this deck because I did top a couple regionals with it. Philadelphia and one in Maine. They took a hit this ban list. They did. They lost one. They went down to one Dryas and one Sunvine Healer. And that hurts consistency, right? Because it's a soft once per turn for both of those. So you really have to make sure that it goes through. And I'm not an advocate for saying run 3 crossout designator and you're fine, because it's not like that, right? You need to have second and third options. So I'm going to put this deck, unfortunately, the top of C. Top of third tier. It's Rogue. I think this deck is now Rogue. I'm going to put Fluoneries in Rogue too. What did you say? You said, I think Branded Chimera is only tier 2. After Little Knight and the matchups got a lot more difficult, forces too many interactions and puts you into an awkward spot. What you confuse with on board. That's a good point. Maybe that's why it's not represented very much by the pros. It's not represented that much. Tier 2. Where would you put it in tier 2? You think it's better than Mekonko? Think it's better than Mekonko? Around Orcus level. Dang, you think it's all the way down there? Okay. You think Branded is where it's supposed to be? Branded Despia? And Chino Saf said, I'm actually playing with my budget trap chicks, my Rogue Dark World, and my Meta Lab deck. Nice, man. Nice. I've actually played all those decks besides the Lab. I need to learn Lab. I really do. Especially if I want to compete in these regionals and then eventually go to nationals again. I need to figure out what Lab does and how to stop it. I know Ash. I just been told Ash, big welcome, Ash welcome Labyrinth, and then you should be fine. But that's not enough for me. I want to learn a little bit more about that. All right, let's go with Runic, and this is the Bestial Runic that Joshua Schmidt did really well with. I hate Runic. I really do. I think it's not a fun matchup at all. I think it's not interactive. There's not really much thinking to do, and maybe I'm just being bitter about the deck, but I think Runic Fountain is just a bad card. They should have made it its custom. You just draw 3. But I'm not gonna lie, the deck is probably good. The deck is probably good. Runic is a deck that it's just not fun to play against for me. But I'm gonna let you guys place this one because I'm not sure. I want an honest, fair opinion. I'm gonna put it right here for now, but in D. But where do you think Runic, Bistio, that whole mashup should go? Gino said, Lab isn't that expensive. If you want to play meta, I think like Fire Kings. I mean, I wanted the engine itself is as expensive as Lab deck. Oh, okay, I see. I mean, wanted engine itself is expensive as Lab deck. I got you. So currently right now I am on Fire King. I'm playing the Fire King Tri-Brigade, Dia Bellstar, and Snake Eye engine for now. And I could fit in like 42 to 43 cards, so it's consistent. I have a couple different engines to play around with, and I've been finding somewhat success with it. The Tri-Brigade engine gets a little bit weird, so I might just take out the Tri-Brigade. And then play the Bonfires, because that's coming out soon. Or not the Bonfires, my fault. Just probably more non-engine Forbidden Droplets. I think Droplets are going to be good coming up. So we'll put Runic. Damn. We'll put Runic in top of tier 2. We'll put it here. I'm not a hater of the deck. I'm a hater of the Runic part of the deck. Fountain is just not a card that I agree with. But we'll leave that there. Sprite. These are all the Sprite variations, right? They have Tri-Brigade. They have Melfi. Live Twin. Sprite is good, this format. I think Sprite has found its groove. It's cooking. It topped a couple regionals, a couple of WCQs. The reason why I'm not a big fan of Sprite is because it doesn't end on anything too crazy. The end board is not crazy, and it's definitely beatable. It's the trap card that is the problem, the double cross. Also, obviously, the other spell, the quick play spell, that banishes a card. I forget the name of it right now, but we're gonna put this a little bit above. Where should Sprite go? They have a good engine. I think Branded has been finding more success than Sprite. I'm gonna put Sprite in between Kashtira and Branded. What Chino say? Chino said Sprite is more like an engine. You want to play with other level 2 decks. Yep, I agree. I don't think pure Sprite is good. Yeah, this is going to be different variations. We're going to go off of the best variation of that deck, right? So with Sprite, that might be the Melfi deck. And that might be Melfi Sprite. I did see a Furhire Sprite do top an event recently. I think that was on the 14th, somewhere in Europe. But I think it's good enough to be a deck that you should put on your radar for events. That's what I'm going to say there. I think it's a deck that's good enough to put on your radar for events. Because it kind of does suck. Like Nibiru's running around, but Sprite doesn't have to worry about Nibiru. I did not see Evil Twin Sprite. I did not see that deck, but that's, I mean, I've heard of it. I haven't seen it played yet. I've never played against it or anything like that, but I know it's probably a good deck. Alright. Let's go with the next deck here. Sword Soul. Rogue. This is Rogue. I think it's better than Hero. Better than Dark World. Worse than any other deck, I think. I'm going to go Rogue on this one. Yeah. Not much to say about Sword Soul. I mean, you should know what Sword Soul does by now. The deck's been around for a couple years. So there was a time and place for Sword Soul where it was the best deck in the meta. Not anymore. Not anymore. Alright, here we go. Kind of the elephant in the room. Tier Elements. This deck has won a couple events recently. And I'm talking about this month. So something you really have to keep on your radar. I think Bystios are prominent right now because of this deck. We're going into a fire meta. Why else would you play Bystios? Right? But when you're playing against tier elements, it's a no-brainer. You want to play your Bystios. But the deck is so good. The deck is still good. Where would I put it? I think it's in this area. Right? It's either before or after Vanadium. I think it's better than Labyrinth. This is a tough one. I'm going to put it right here for now. I'm going to keep it right here for now. The deck just has everything going for it. You know, you could still mill without the Keldo. Without the Keldo and the Yugioh, you can still consistently mill. And it's going to be a deck that's consistent, right? It does have RNG, but the deck runs so many cards that activate in the graveyard that it's not going to matter. You're going to get some effect, right? You're going to get something going with the amount of times you can mill. And with Tier Elements, Kashtira running around, you're good. You're good. You can play Tier Elements right now. It's a really good deck. It's always going to be good. Unless they hit, some crazy cards. But I think this is a good spot for it. Yeah. I should also mention Tier Elements is a good deck, but you have to be good with the deck as well. You have to know exactly what you're doing. the deck's been around long enough that if you've been playing it, I'm sure you do know what you're doing. But it's not it's not the easiest deck to pilot, especially since your resources are limited now. We're almost done here. We got Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul topped an event. I think I've seen it twice recently this month. But I don't think I think it's power crept. You have to have amazing piloting skills for this deck to be to top with it. So I do think it's better than Flu. I do think it's better than Orcust. I'll put it here. These two could probably be interchangeable, but I'll put it here. And simply because it has been topping with good players piloting it. So there must be something with the deck that gives it that advantage. And, you know, I played the deck a lot on Master Duel. And obviously it's not the same meta, but it does ramp up fast. I think it does get advantage almost instantly when you can draw. You can pop, you can search. I mean, everything's in the deck. Where I think it's lacking is that it doesn't have any protection. There's no protection. They can all be targeted, they can all be destroyed, and they can all be bounced. The only protection is you can dodge imperm with bouncing cards into your own hand. So something that is a weakness of this deck for sure. And the last deck, Unchained, right? Unchained. Once the supreme ruler of last format has suddenly not seen any representation in any top cuts. Actually, I lied. One person topped with it. One person topped with it with one Shavara. And they played other cards. Like they upped the Rakea to 2. But where is this deck actually? Is it just not being represented because people don't believe that one Shavara is enough? Where do you think this deck should actually lie? I think I've seen some other YouTubers like trying to cook with the deck now with just one Shavara. But this deck, man, has fell off. No one plays it. No one plays it anymore. I still have the core. I still have the core of this deck, but I sold it. Do I dare say it's better than Vanquish Soul? Do I put it here? Or do I put it here? I think it's definitely in B, right? There's no representation. I can't say it's better than... I can't say it's up here. I can't say it's over here. Or can I? I mean, SP is a card that Unchained was really good at utilizing, which kind of hurts Illusion. I'm gonna put it here just to be conservative, right? Because not a lot of people play the deck right now. I have to test it. I'm not sure how it is with one Shavara. I'm just gonna be frankly honest. Not sure how it is with one Shavara. But I know you can recycle Shavara with Yama. So just how like Orcust has one Harpour, they recycle it back into the deck. So I'll have to do some more testing, but for now I'm going to be safe and say it's not as good as Chimera. But that's the tier list. I think it looks pretty good. What do you guys think? What do you think? Should I change anything here? Does it look solid? Am I missing any decks? Definitely would want to know and have a discussion on that, but I think this is looking pretty good. These are the decks that are sort of relevant in the meta. Obviously, these down here are not as relevant. But I think from here on up, these are relevant. These are something that you should be considering and worrying about and planning for. Centurion has been taking off recently. And that's probably due to like the horse package helping it out. But yeah, man, that's what it is right here. So I appreciate y'all coming in, watching, checking it out. Like I said, I don't think there's anything in S tier. There's no tier 1 deck right now. Maybe next format with Populous, or not next format, but like, you know, when that set comes out, Populous and Bonfire. that could probably boost one of these fire decks, these two right here, up into tier 1. We'll have to wait and see, right? We'll have to see what goes on there. Centurion. Who knows what's going to happen with this deck once that happens. But yeah, a lot of good decks to play with. A lot of good decks to play with for sure. For sure. But, alright, man. I'm going to appreciate y'all checking in. I'm probably going to do another one once the next set comes out. I like doing these and especially interacting with you guys. This is going to be recorded. Probably put it on YouTube as well. If you want to check out the YouTube, it's Joe Yugioh. The profile picture is Diabellstar. Got a couple of live videos on there of me playing. But today I decided I thought I'll do a tier list, something a little bit different. But just started the YouTube channel for like 2 days ago. So enjoy that. But I appreciate y'all checking in, man. About to make this a video as well. So you'll see yourself in the chat. But appreciate y'all, and I'll catch you on the next one. Adios.